And as for my own personal aspirations and qualifications to manage a major league club, there are none. There are no aspirations. There are no qualifications. I'm going to stick to the day job. Welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal. Busy weekend. You might have watched or didn't watch the game I was on with Fox. 18-2 Dodgers over the Yankees. But on this show today, we're not going to talk about either the Dodgers or Yankees. There is plenty else to discuss. And let's start off with Arizona, a team dealing with a serious injury scare right now. If you didn't see the video, Corbin Burnes left yesterday's game with right elbow tightness. Now, this could have serious implications for the Diamondbacks in the sense that they're already without Jordan Montgomery for the season. Eduardo Rodriguez remains out with left shoulder inflammation. And here's a team that is right there with the Atlanta Braves in the National League for the most disappointing in baseball. They're 28-31. They're 8 out in the division. They're 5 out in the wild card. And if they lose Corbin Burnes, who has been their best pitcher, that would be a significant blow to any postseason chances, any dreams that they might have of getting back to the World Series for the second time in 3 years. This is a team with a record $187 million payroll. Corbin Burnes, if you might remember, signed a 6-year, $210 million contract last offseason. He has an opt-out after the second year. If, in the worst-case scenario, he needs elbow surgery, the opt-out is not going to be an issue. He's going to stay. But the issue will be for the team. And the issue will be you lose Corbin Burnes for the rest of the year. You lose him for next year, too, if he has a major elbow operation. And then where are you as a team? Do you shift your focus from being a potential buyer at the deadline, looking for bullpen help, to a potential seller? The Diamondbacks, if they do become a seller, and yes, I'm jumping ahead here, I'm speculating. We don't know the extent of Burnes' injury just yet, but if the Diamondbacks become a seller, they have arguably the two best starting pitchers on the market, Zac Gallen and Merrill Kelly, to offer, both potential free agents. Their other potential free agent is Josh Naylor, a first baseman. That is a position where there generally isn't much need, but I can think of one team that has a need for a first baseman, and that would be the Seattle Mariners. So on this Monday, we are waiting for the news on Burnes, obviously hoping for the best, obviously hoping that the Diamondbacks remain a competitive team for the rest of this season in the National League West. But it's going to be a really interesting scenario regardless of what happens here. Because even if Burnes is, in the best case, not heading for surgery, it seems almost certain after what we saw yesterday that he is going to require a trip to the injured list. And this is a team that already is reeling. On the other side of the coin, we've got the Milwaukee Brewers. A club that was struggling earlier in the season, a club that kind of was flummoxing its manager, Pat Murphy, who said repeatedly, I want to see the same edge from this team that we saw last year and in recent years. Well, here we go. The Brewers have won 7 straight. They just swept the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia. Not easy to do. And they did it in a variety of ways. 2 home runs from Christian Yelich on Friday. They just rocked Jesus Luzardo on Saturday. And then Sunday, they got to the Phillies bullpen late in the game, and it was just a really terrific all-around performance. Injury scare of their own. Christian Yelich got hit on the right hand and suffered a contusion, but the x-rays were negative. It seems like it's going to be day-to-day. Yelich had just gotten hot. Last 8 game hitting streak, he was hitting .472 with 5 homers in that time. So clearly the Brewers want their offensive leader to stay healthy. He is a huge part of what they do, even though he is not producing at the same levels he was maybe in the late 2010s. So here are the Brewers. They are red hot. They are a team that, again, always seems to compete. And a team, as I wrote Friday, that has an interesting surplus of starting pitching that they could be dealing with in the immediate future. And I want to show you what I'm talking about here, because it's rare for any team to be in this kind of position, but the Brewers are in a really good spot right now with their rotation. Of course, Freddie Peralta is at the top of that rotation. There's Aaron Savali, Jose Quintana, Chad Patrick, DL Hall. That's the current group. And then AAA possibilities, Brandon Woodruff on a rehab assignment right now. Logan Henderson, who was pitching really well, did not deserve a demotion and got one. Tobias Myers, who's kind of trying to recapture his 2024 magic, and Jacob Misiorowski. Jacob Misiorowski is their top prospect, a dude who throws 100 miles an hour. So the Brewers are in a rather interesting position here if all these guys stay healthy. And of course, there's no guarantee of that. And there's no guarantee that all will continue pitching well enough to remain viable options. But we've seen the Brewers trade from strength at the deadline before. We saw them do it with Josh Hader. And with Freddie Peralta, a potential free agent who is a guy that will be in demand from some teams, yeah, he's got a club option, so you can keep him from next year. But he is someone that the Brewers might think, you know what? We can survive without Freddie Peralta and we can get something good maybe for the present and the future for him. That would be something that I would expect they would consider regardless of where they are in the standings. Remember, when they traded Hader, they were in a really good spot. And that Hader trade kind of dismantled the franchise a little bit or discombobulated them. That would be a better word. So they might not want to do that kind of thing again, but Savali is a veteran who will be in demand. They can do some things if these guys stay healthy and productive. So the Brewers, as always, are looming as a potential thorn in the Cubs' side. We wouldn't expect anything less. And finally, staying in the Midwest, big news out of Kansas City last night. The Royals are promoting their top prospect, Jac Caglianone. And here's a guy that is really interesting, really exciting for a team that desperately needs offense. The Royals, right now, as we speak, are pitching great, and they also are tied for 28th in the majors in runs per game, tied with the Pittsburgh Pirates for the second worst offense in baseball, ahead of only the Colorado Rockies. Here's Caglianone, a guy that was drafted just last year, the 6th overall pick in the 2024 draft, and he's a guy with immense power. There's some concerns about his chase, and that's okay. We'll see how that all plays out. But he is someone with vast offensive potential. Let's take a look at just who he is before I get into what his role with the Royals will be, because that's kind of interesting too. Jac Caglianone, as I said, the 6th pick of the 2024 draft. He becomes the 3rd player from that draft to reach the majors. Cam Smith, of course, was the first. He broke opening day with the Astros. And Nick Kurtz, currently on the IL with the Athletics, was the 2nd. Caglianone, 6'5", 250 pounds. Sounds like some dude out of the WWE. And finally, his combined stats at AA and AAA in this, his first full professional season. Slash line 322, 389, 924, 15 homers in AA and AAA. Has actually been even better at AAA than he was at AA. So this is an exciting guy. And yes, he'll chase, of course. He chased in the minor leagues, chased at Florida. That's a concern. He's gotten better with that, but that's going to be the question offensively. Defensively is really interesting too, because he is a first baseman and a DH mostly. He also pitched in college at the University of Florida. But with the Royals, he's not going to play first base or DH primarily because they've got Vinny Pasquantino and they've got Salvador Perez, who sometimes plays first, sometimes DHs. So what the Royals have been doing is playing Caglianone in the outfield, and they feel he'll be able to hold his own out there. He's not going to be great, at least initially, but he did some one-on-one work with the Royals' great longtime coach, Rusty Kuntz, in the minor leagues, and they feel that he is ready enough, let's put it that way, that he'll be adequate at the position. Either way, welcome to the major leagues, Jac Caglianone, and from the Royals' perspective, a big welcome because they need the offense. We'll be back after a quick word from our friends at Foul Territory.
FT fan, by now, you know if you're buying, selling, trading, collecting cards, Arena Club is the spot. We've been talking about them all season long, but I do want to focus on the slab pack experience, Kratz, since you've been ripping some slab packs digitally. And what happens?
I mean, as a kid, you wanted to rip open the packs. How can they do this digitally? Oh, baby. This is exciting. How the graphics come out and everything. And oh, yeah, the card that you pull, you can actually get that, John, physically. So it's perfect. It's all in one place, and it's a super exciting experience.
Yeah, they send that to you from the vault if you want it. But if you look at it and you're like, it's not the card for me, I want to sell back, go for it. You can do any of that on Arena Club, and you can acquire the best value for your money with those slab packs, transparent checklists, and Arena Club's Slab Safe program. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL. arenaclub.com/foul, use code FOUL.
Time now for the Inside Dish, the part of the show where I focus on maybe a story I've written, maybe a trend in the game, maybe something else entirely. And today I want to talk about something that has been going on for quite some time, that has been chronicled by the Athletics' Chandler Rome. Chandler also hosts Crush Steady Territory on this network. And it's a rather disturbing issue because it kind of has layers to it. And it's an issue that involves the Houston Astros and their lack of transparency and seemingly a lack of competence on the medical end. And you see the headline there. Yordan Alvarez's small hand fracture adds another chapter to the Astros' ambiguous medical history. This goes back to last year and even beyond that, which I'll get into. But last year, Kyle Tucker. The Astros said for almost 3 months that Kyle Tucker had a shin contusion. And the club eventually had to acknowledge that he had a fracture in the shin area because Chandler was about to report that he had a fracture. So only then did they go public. Now, where they went wrong with the diagnosis, how they all played out, not exactly clear, but what they said and what actually was going on were two different things. And for Kyle Tucker, it was rather disturbing, I would imagine, since they're saying he's got a contusion and fans are wondering, you've got a contusion and you're sitting out 3 months? Well, no, he had a fracture. Well, here we go with Alvarez. History repeating itself. Suffers the hand problem in early May. His last game was May 2nd. Hasn't played since then. On May 6th, he gets imaging. It shows inflammation and fluid. The team calls it a muscle strain on the top of his hand. Now, in fairness to the club, you can't always see a fracture when there's swelling around the area that is affected because the swelling needs to go down, and only then on the imaging does the fracture become apparent. Well, Alvarez was working his way back. He takes live batting practice on Friday, and guess what? His hand hurts again. Goes for more imaging, and look at here. He has a fracture. Now, the question that comes up here is, why didn't you send him for imaging before he started hitting off live pitching again? At that point, you could have detected the fracture. Why didn't you send him for imaging the moment the swelling went down to see exactly what was there? These are fair questions. Now, the Astros general manager, Dana Brown, came out and said this is 60% healed. They hope he is back quickly. But again, questions about the Astros and just what they are doing in their medical evaluations. And Chandler had an interesting line in his story about this whole situation in which he said, nowhere in Dana Brown's team-written biography does it describe any medical education in the past, yet he sat atop a bench on Saturday afternoon attempting to explain how a $2 billion entity has now twice failed to discover a fracture in one of its franchise players. Now, again, in fairness, general managers often speak for the medical staff. Not all do. And Chandler has pointed out on Twitter and X and other areas as well that other teams make medical personnel available on a frequent basis. The Reds are one, the Pirates are another. There are a couple of teams that do that rather than let the general manager speak. It's better to have the expert talking, and it's also better to be transparent with what's going on with your injuries. I want to show you here the Tigers injury report, and they issue this, I believe, twice a week. 2 separate injury reports, and I don't know if you can see this exactly in detail, and you certainly can't read it all, and I'm not going to do that on the show, but it's a very detailed injury update on where each injured player stands. This is what every team in the major leagues should be doing if they want to be transparent. And by the way, in an era of gambling, maybe a little bit more transparency would be even more welcome, so people know what the heck is going on, what the heck they're betting on. Now, in the NFL, there is an injury report that is provided every week. Now, granted, these injury reports don't always go into the detail we'd like. You hear sometimes lower body injuries, sometimes stuff like that, but it's something. And the NFL has an injury report policy, and I want to read you from that and show you exactly what it says. The policy requires that teams provide credible, accurate, and specific information about injured players to the league office, their opponents, local and national media, and the league's broadcast partners each week during the regular season and postseason. Not complicated. That's the way it's done. And that's the way it should be done in baseball. But in baseball, what we see too often, and not just with regard to injuries, is the central office in the league allowing the teams to do essentially whatever the heck they want. You want to open your clubhouse at a certain time? Do that. You want to announce injuries? Do that. Do whatever you need to do. We're not going to stop you. We're not going to set policy. There are any number of areas in which the clubs, I won't say run amok, but are too independent. Put it that way. They have too much control. And it's time, high time, for the league to take control. And it's really high time for the Houston Astros to get it together with regard to what they're announcing about injured players and, more importantly, the way they're diagnosing injured players. Alvarez is going to come back. The team is in really good position right now, even though they've played about a month without him, even though they've been incredibly right-handed without him. But this whole situation, it seems, is another example of the Astros not getting it right. On medical, you need to get it right. We all acknowledge, all of us, we've all been through this in our own lives, that sometimes diagnoses are not accurate, that sometimes you have to go to a second opinion. Sometimes things just don't work out the way they should. But in the Astros case, when they didn't send Alvarez for second imaging, when the swelling had subsided, I don't see how there's just any good explanation for that. Tune into the latest Crush City Territory episode for more on Yordan Alvarez's injury fallout. The Athletics' Chandler Rome and Tyler Stafford host. Former Astros outfielder Josh Reddick also stops by each week. Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to the entire Foul Territory network. Sources confirm Fair Territory fits are available at the new look foulterritoryshop.com. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, hats, and more. Father's Day is around the corner, so maybe add in something for a player to be named later while you browse. Order now at foulterritoryshop.com and look like the fairest of them all. We'll be back after a quick word from our friends at Foul Territory.
Scott, you need to check out this Roback hoodie I have. It's 85 plus degrees here in Florida. Look, lightweight, feels great, cool colors, perfect for those hot Florida days.
I agree, AJ. Color looks fire. And you can get your own sweatshirt, polo, hoodie. Go check out Roback. And if you do and you're a first-time customer, Roback.com using the code FOUL gets you 20% off your first purchase. RHOBACK.com, code FOUL. Get after it, FT fam.
BetMGM is giving you the chance to win a prize every day during the baseball season. Step into the batter's box for BetMGM's Swing for the Fences free-to-play game. Visit the BetMGM app to access the game, and you'll score a prize if you hit a single, double, triple, or home run. Strikeout? No problem. Try again tomorrow. Gambling problem or concern? There is help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Time now for Grillin Ken, the part of the show where I answer your questions. Let's get right to them. First question comes from apparently J Palm, who asks, can the Braves turn their season around? It's funny. It looked like the Braves had turned their season around when they went 19-10 from April 18th to May 18th. But in their last 11 games, even with Acuna and Strider back, they've gone 3-8 and raising fan concerns yet again about just where this season is going. I would say to any fan that is concerned about the Braves to keep in mind that the Mets and the Astros at this time last year were just taken off. The Mets were pretty horrible in their first 2 months. The Astros had their own struggles, and both of those teams eventually found their way. It is not too late for the Braves to do the same. And Acuna being back is certainly helpful. Strider eventually will find his stride, so to speak, and that will be helpful as well. So I expect that the Braves are going to be in the thick of this thing. Maybe not for the division title, but certainly in a wild card scenario. And if you get in and you get hot and you're playing well at the right time, as we have seen, you can go a long way in the postseason. The Braves clearly need to be playing better. And at times this season, it's almost seemed like, it's not their year. But again, I would stress that we felt that way about the Mets last May. We felt that way about the Astros last May. And then as it turned to June, things started to turn right before June, in fact, for both those clubs. So I would expect, again, that the Braves will be there. If not, different conversation, and we'll have that conversation in July. All right, next question. Should the Reds sell more than their rentals? Kyle essentially is asking, should the Reds give up on their season and really go into a full rebuild mode? I would say no to that question. And yes, the Reds are in a 4-7 stretch right now, and they got outscored in their Final 2 games against the Cubs after winning the opener, outscored 9-3. Scoring runs has been a problem at various points this season for Cincinnati, but it's weird. They still entered Sunday, actually, even right now. They are a top 10 offense. They're 10th in the majors in runs per game. They are 7th in the league in rotation ERA. So if you've got a top 10 offense and a top 10 rotation, why would you sell? You'd look for more consistency in your offense, and certainly they need another bat. We've been saying that since spring training. And you'd also look to fix your bullpen, something that they've been working on and something that they can keep working on through the deadline. But I see no reason for them to sell, and I see no reason for them at this point to look at selling beyond the players who are potential free agents. They don't even have many of those. So again, Cincinnati is not in quite the same kind of place as Atlanta is, but they've been an inconsistent team. They've been disappointing at times, but man, they've got a terrific rotation. And when you've got a rotation that good, and when you've got an offense that has the potential to be quite productive, you don't give up on a season. All right, next question. This one comes from Jake Wilson, who asks, as we wait to hear about Burnes, are we seeing the end of long-term contracts for pitchers? Jake, the answer to that is no, but you raise a really interesting point. David Stearns, the Mets president of baseball operations, he basically has seen the end of long-term contracts for pitchers. He doesn't give them out. The biggest contract he has given a free agent starting pitcher since taking over with the Mets is 3 years, $75 million, and that was for Sean Manaea in free agency this year. 3 years, again, that's a short term, $75 million, nice AAV for Sean Manaea, but not anything crazy. So Stearns has basically pivoted away from that. And the Mets, because of their great pitching development, have been able to kind of keep things going and develop new guys each year, kind of make something out of nothing in many cases, Griffin Canning being the latest example. So here's the free agent class coming up, and it's a pretty good one of starting pitchers. Zac Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Michael King, Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, Seth Lugo if he does not exercise a player option. Are all teams going to take the approach of Stearns and say, you know what, we're just not doing this? I seriously doubt it. The market is what dictates contracts for starting pitchers and other players as well. It's why Juan Soto got his amazing deal. It was the market. And when you have a shortage of quality starting pitchers, as this sport does, quality starting pitchers who can stay healthy, that's an even bigger shortage. Well, you're going to see teams bid and bid up. That's just the nature of the game. Will they be reluctant to do it? Sure, they'll be reluctant to do it. And will they perhaps be inclined, like the Orioles were with Burnes, to go short-term, high dollar? Remember, the Orioles offered Burnes 4 years, $180 million. Now, you could say, well, that would have been better in some respects. It's less risk in terms of the term, the length of the contract. But here's Corbin Burnes. If he had signed with the Orioles and was in the same physical situation, facing at least the question of a major elbow operation, if you've got him on a 4-year deal, you're losing 2 years pretty much. And that would have been almost calamitous for the Orioles. So there is no great answer here. We all know that. Starting pitchers get hurt, relief pitchers get hurt, and the sport has yet to find a way to do a better job. We're not going to ever avoid injuries entirely, but to do a better job of keeping pitchers healthy. Let's hope one day we get to that point where they are healthier and able to keep it going in a better way. I don't know how it's going to happen, if it's ever going to happen, but until then, we're going to face these questions, and teams are going to face these questions about how to pay their starting pitchers. All right, finally, the last question of the day from Jeff Wax, who asks, are you available on short notice to manage the Boston Red Sox? And I assume because this is Grillin Ken and because I am the host of this show, Jeff is directing that question to me. Am I available to replace Alex Cora as manager of the Boston Red Sox? Ladies and gentlemen, you often have problems with the way I do my present job. So why would I take a job for which I have no qualifications, for which I could not do on my best day, and manage a team, and a team as good as the Boston Red Sox, or as well-regarded a franchise as the Boston Red Sox? Kidding aside, I know what you're asking. And you're asking the question a lot of people are asking, hey, what's going on with Alex Cora? Why aren't the Red Sox playing better? There are a lot of reasons for that. And sure, maybe Cora is one of them. They just have not played to their potential yet. But Cora is in the first year of a 3-year extension. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. If they have a disappointing season, if they get off to a bad start next year, could I see him being in jeopardy? Yes, but not just yet. And as for my own personal aspirations and qualifications to manage a major league club, there are none. There are no aspirations. There are no qualifications. I'm going to stick to the day job and try to do it as well as I can so I don't get crushed on X and in comments and everywhere else for just what a poor job I do covering this sport. I want to thank everyone for their questions, even the one about me becoming a manager. Thank you for listening, for watching. You know where to find us: YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We'll be back on Thursday with our normal live show, myself and Alana Rizzo. Join us and have a great week, everyone.